What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. Just know that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15. And the offer ends very soon in just about 10 days. Anyways, as far as SPY goes, we are looking for a small dip right over here as we're approaching the 590 to 589.25 support. But overall, I still believe that there is potential for us to try to hold that area. As long as we hold support, we could attempt to rebound and eventually fill the daily gap. So I'll talk more about this in just a minute. Just know these couple of things about the markets. Today is Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. There's not really much data coming out for today. Very, very minor crude oil data will be coming out and a couple of bill auctions later on, but it's all very, very minor. Now, in terms of earnings, just know that after market close, we have Nvidia announcing their earnings. Whatever Nvidia announces is going to be very, very important. So get ready for that. And Nvidia is going to be causing a very, very big move in the market as a whole. So get ready for that as well. Now, just know that for the other earnings, for Neo and Target and TJ Maxx, most of them are not that great. If you look at Target, for example, the shares ended up dropping 15% or even more than that after they had to cut their forecasts because their earnings are not that great. EPS was at $1.85. That's below expectations of $2.30 per share. Revenues at 25.67 billion, below expectations of $25.9 billion. On top of this, they had to cut their guidance. Same store sales were not too bad. They were so. Their net sales are okay, but the unfortunate truth is the fact that they had to cut their guidance because of the fact that earnings are not as great. And we're not expecting the strongest of earnings, at least for the end of the year. So, unfortunately, that's why the share price is down quite a bit. Now, for other stocks out there, we also have like Neo. Neo, unfortunately, had wider than expected losses. They lost about $710 million. Not to mention the fact that revenue was just so. It's down about 2.1%, missing the consensus estimates. So they missed on revenue. They also saw a wider than expected loss. That's why the share price is down, unfortunately. When it comes to other pieces of news about the broader markets, just know that investors are just waiting for Nvidia's earnings to pan out. So we're waiting to see what Nvidia ends up announcing, what they give us, at least involving not only the markets, but like more data like that. There's also news about how Comcast plans to move forward with the spin-off of its cable network channels. That could be very interesting, at least for the future, but there's nothing else that's too crazy that came out. Earnings were so, not that great. Besides that, Target missed on earnings. There are some tensions rising between Russia and Ukraine, but just know that we're waiting to see if anything escalates too much. The market's still holding up despite that news, so that's what's essentially going on. Anyways, that's it for my analysis of the data. That's like really, really quick compared to like usual. Now I just want to focus on the rest of these charts. So as far as SPY is going, we're doing a very, very good job at holding up. I want to be very blunt about that. I see more potential for us to try to continue to push as we approach NVIDIA's big earnings report. Now, we're going to be watching some very, very key levels. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, we have this main support at 589.25. We'll have to see if we hold above that at the very least. We could dip a little bit. There might be a small dip upon open, but as long as we make a higher low, this could continue to push and break out later. We still have the gap to fill at 593, and overall, we do look more bullish on the 4-hour. So this starts favoring that it might dip a little bit. Then we might be looking for a bounce and a continuation higher to fill our upper gap. We might try to push more with Nvidia's earnings, but look for an initial dip upon open. Then we'll see how it goes from there. For Nvidia itself, this is bullish, but we're at this tough resistance at this 148 to 150 area. We are known for kind of chopping around up here. So Nvidia, it might attempt to push a little bit higher, but then we might see a lot of choppy price action up here. So just be very wary of that between 148 and 150. That's going to be our very, very tough resistance. For ES, just know that this is also in a very similar boat. Might be retesting 59.37, if not the lower 5900s, before it tries to bounce again. Watch that very carefully just to see how it ends up reacting. But that's going to be the most likely case, a small dip coming to about that 59.25 to 59.30 area before it tries to bounce again. ES also has a gap above to fill up here, very close to the 59.75 area. So if it does dip a bit, we could be looking for a bounce afterwards. So just give that some time. As far as Bitcoin goes, we're breaking all-time highs. We could be approaching the 94,500 area, if not 95,000. So I see some more upside potential right up there. For Tesla's very flat right now. We have this resistance to watch for around this 340, 346 to 348 area. If we break that, we're looking for an even bigger pump, especially as we have this imbalance to the left side to be filling. So we have to break 350 to turn more bullish to break out to about 363. And if we reject here, we're looking for essentially um, 338 to potentially be retested. So to me, it looks like Tesla might dip a little bit here. It is a tough resistance at 348, and we could be on our way back down to like 340 or so before it tries to bounce again. But we'll have to see if we could break 350. That's going to be the bigger question for Tesla. If we break 350, then yes, this will be running much higher. We haven't been able to do that yet, so it might just continue to consolidate for some time. Then we'll see how it goes from here. Just keep that in mind, guys. That's what I'm essentially anticipating. For NQ, we are at some tough resistance. It could be dipping closer to about 20,700 flat before it tries to bounce. So there is some potential in that to potentially pan out. For the QQQ, we could be retesting 502 to 500 at that range for a small little dip before it tries to bounce again. So give it some time to develop. For Apple, Apple could be retesting 227, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not from there. Give this a little bit more time to develop. I think we could be retesting 227 flat, so give it some time. For others out there, we have the IWM, the Russell 2000. It could be on its way back down towards 229 or so before it tries to bounce. Coin is looking more bullish. On the other hand, it could be pushing for about 340 as resistance, so look for a little bit more upside. Amazon, it's dipping here as well. We could be retesting 202 before it tries to rebound. It's still doing fine, though, as long as we make a higher low compared to this low. It could be coming down before it tries to bounce. Meta, same thing. This is actually testing resistance at 564. If we break that, we go up to 570. If not, we could dip a bit before it tries to push later. But it is bullish overall. We'll have to see if we break 564 to turn higher. Microsoft might be retesting about 416 before it tries to rebound. So keep that in mind. It's doing a good job at holding up, but there is potential for that small little dip beforehand. Google could also be dipping back down towards 178 before it tries to bounce, so give it some time. And then finally for Palantir, I'm getting a lot of questions about this. Palantir could be retesting 62, 61.6 to 62. So I think it's just range bound between 63 and 61.5 before it tries to rebound as well. So I find that to be one of the most likely possibilities if you look at the way that this is moving. So just keep that in mind, at least moving forward. So it's just range bound between 63 and 61. Just know that. And then besides that, I'm not really seeing anything else that's too crazy. As far as the VIX goes, it's very indecisive. So, are we about to get a rug pull in the VIX after Nvidia's earnings to fill this gap down here, or do we see a big rally to fill this upper gap up here? We're gonna have to wait and see, depending on Nvidia's earnings. So, the market's essentially gonna see a small dip, then maybe a bounce later in continuation to squeeze. That might be coming later on with Nvidia's earnings. But whether or not that happens, just know that if we get a big pump or not after Nvidia's earnings, all depends on what they announce. So that's going to be the main thing we're waiting for. Just keep that in mind, guys. The market is still doing a good job at holding up. So could the market push more later? Yes, it can. We may start off with a small dip, but then there's going to likely be more upside coming later on. And then we'll see what happens with Nvidia's big report. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great rest of your day. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, thank you for listening and peace out.